Greetings, this is Griff Ruby, the Nostalgia Catholic, with yet another Touch Mine Angel episode. This one is a snapshot of one of our main characters of this next episode, titled Fear Not, at least as originally aired, and as it appears on the first season set. You'll have another name, we'll talk about that later. So there he is, and there's his older brother Wayne, and yes, that is Randy Travis. He actually sings a couple songs in this episode, which is kind of cool, if you like his voice. Anyway, so Randy Travis, as Wayne, is the older brother. Joey is the younger brother, but he's not all there. In fact, he's got a lot of difficulties, and just needs a lot of attention, and we'll learn a little bit about that. So, little Joey does have one very wonderful friend, this little girl named Serena. And she kind of keeps him going, keeps him remembering where he needs to go, helps him remember what he needs to do, and it's just his friend, and they go together, and you see, Wayne can just leave Joey with, or in the care of Serena, because Serena's a sharp, responsible child, and totally supportive and loving of Joey. She can see the beauty of Joey's character. She's protective of him, and so forth. Anyway, they're in this little church. They kind of wanted to make it nondescript. I get that, which makes me wonder why angels would show up there. But we'll just have to push that all on the back burner and just kind of accept that this is where it is. So what's happening here is that Serena has a role in the play that she used to be the angel. They got this whole rig to kind of carry her up. And she's up high, and she'll say, "Behold, I bring tidings of great joy," and all that good stuff. Fear not, all that great stuff. But you look at her again, and she's not looking too healthy. In fact, she's almost passing out up there, and of course that rig isn't very comfortable either. I think there's some place where Monica was commenting that when they were recording this thing was practically cutting into her. I mean, it was really bad. So it's like, yeah, don't ask me to do that one again. And even for the little girl, it's pretty bad. And then it gets stuck. They couldn't get it down. And then Monica does her little, chugga chugga chugga. Well, not quite that bad, but you know what I mean. And suddenly the thing goes down smoothly and easily. A little intervention there. So, but Wayne is kind of having enough of Monica. And so, Wayne doesn't celebrate much Christmas. He's not much into all that stuff. And it's kind of interesting and sobering to hear what Wayne does celebrate. So
what I celebrate? Serena, you got everything you need?
Everything's under control.
I celebrate every day that goes by that Joey doesn't break something, or spill something, or rip something, or hug somebody too hard, or scream his lungs out. It gets dark when he wasn't looking. That's what I celebrate. And when it happens, it usually doesn't last that long. Thank God for Serena. At least she takes him off my hands once in a while. She doesn't let anybody tease him or hurt him. She's probably the only person that can really handle it. Maybe that's something to celebrate. You know what I celebrate?
Oh. Wow. That's really hard. I think that's just very sobering. It's a lot. You can kind of see he needs, he can't button his shirt without help. He can't, it's just need and so forth. And meanwhile, Wayne's got a job. He runs a lumber yard in town, and he's got that job. And so he's got to be there. So he can't be there looking after Joey all day long. He's got to keep finding where Joey's going to be, and sometimes it can be Serena. That's probably the best solution. I don't know what he does other times. So, yeah, Joey and Wayne. Well, but Monica's got some very, very bad news. Joey is going to lose his best friend very soon. Serena's health is not very well. You saw the trouble she was having. It wasn't just that the rig is kind of uncomfortable, whatever. She herself is on the brink of serious, catastrophic heart failure. So they're getting ready, and we're also introduced to one other character of sorts to the story, and that would be Mr. Beans, this funny teddy bear, green and yellow teddy bear. And Monica say, well, angels don't usually carry dolls around. I wonder if they'd ever do that, but pass on that. Anyway, they certainly wouldn't usually do a thing like that. And Serena thought, well, this isn't a doll. Serena, this isn't a doll. And then Monica says something that I think requires comment. I'm sorry to say. It's cutesy, but at the same time, it might be the kind of thing you could say to a child that you kind of make stuff up, like the Easter Bunny will take care of this kind of a thing. And it really is. Because he says, well, maybe it will do as a baby angel. Baby angel. Angels, being created by God, do not go through the normal human life cycle of, well, human beings. They're conceived, they're born, they grow, they start as babies, they become teenagers, and finally they're grown up, and then finally they grow old. Angels don't do any of that. They're just created as basically adult beings from the outset. So how would you ever have a baby angel? That's kind of nonsensical. Cherub in the Bible. Cherubs, for example, guarded Eden, and after Adam and Eve had to leave Eden, the cherubs stood at the gate guarding it, saying, you can't come back in here. So they were like soldiers, like security guards. And they probably didn't have to be armed with much, but they were probably fairly intimidating creatures. Although one could also regard it as maybe a reference to something you could see in like some Renaissance and post-Renaissance art, where you'd see these little creatures that are just a human head, like a child's head, and wings sticking out of the ears, and that's supposed to be like an angelic figure. Sometimes that would be thought of as cherubs. Well, I don't know. Anyway, but Mr. Beans doesn't look like one of those either, so I think we're out on that score as well. But at any rate, Mr. Beans is a very important character in the story. So, but there's a scene here which I think is, for me personally, probably one of the most profound and touching scenes. This guy, he's just the guy that operates that whole rope thingy that's supposed to bring the angel up over the church from that part. And he's explaining this, what he's doing, why, and this is the toughest thing. Okay, let's do this.
You can't give children everything they want, Harry. That's right. I can't give her everything she wants. I can't give her a healthy heart. I can't give her another year to live. I can't even give her another month. But I can give her Christmas. You can't give children everything they want, Harry.
So,
that's right. I can't.
That's it. I mean, you just see the love in that. I can't give her a healthy heart. I can't give her a year to live. I can't even give her a month. I can give her Christmas. I'm determined to do that. I mean, that is just... I think that one guy's love alone would probably warrant the showing up of angels, or at least what you expect, a thing like that. I don't know that we really see anybody, even between Wayne and Joey, although Wayne's kind of having to deal with Joey. And that's not always easy. So... and they come to be able to appreciate each other a bit better. So, Joey's afraid of the dark, and he explains why. He says it right here. People that go out into the night don't come back. Well, it didn't happen that way, or happen that way, because his parents went into the night, and they didn't come back. They did not come back. So Joe is very afraid of that. He's also afraid of having Wayne sit him down and explain something. Because after that happened, Wayne had to sit him down and explain, Mom and Dad are not coming back anymore. So that was very devastating to him. But meanwhile, Serena's in bed, kind of a special hospital bed, because she's getting real close to the end. And now she's able to see all these. You notice there's Adam there as well. And Wade finally starts singing to her Silent Night. So we get to hear Randy Travis singing Silent Night. Very nice. A little acapella thing. It's really nice. And she's seeing all the angels there, and they're explaining who Adam is. Adam's going to be escorting her to the next world soon, very soon. Not just yet, however. And meanwhile, Joey's out front, kind of, she understands what's going on, no matter how much he doesn't want to. He does understand, and he's so worried. He's just all, who's there going to be to like me, to love me, once Serena's gone? And he's just feeling so terribly abandoned. But he comes back in, and he's telling her on this bed, he visits her, and he is saying here, look, you have to take him, Mr. Beans, to the Christmas pageant tonight, okay? You have to take Mr. Beans. You promised. Well, she can't do it, but you can carry that promise out. You promise? And you did make that promise. And where's Mr. Beans? Well, earlier in the day, they made snow angels. You lay down the back and move your arms. It's supposed to kind of look okay, kind of wing-like. Okay. And at that moment, Mr. Beans was let go of because she suddenly got worse. He carried her to his house. Mr. Beans was sitting there in somebody's front yard, and something else happened to Mr. Beans. He comes back, and he cannot find Mr. Beans. He cannot find Mr. Beans. This is a big panic for him.
Mr. Bean. Have you seen it? Have you seen Mr. Beans? Have you seen Mr. Beans?
There's Mr. Beans. Into the trash. So that's a big source of panic for him. Big source. Because he promised to bring Mr. Beans, and now he can't find Mr. Beans. He can't keep the promise. This is terrible. And how's he going to do it? Because anyway, the pageant's at night. How's he going to get to the place at night? How's he going to get there? Because he can't go through the dark. So he's in total despair, despondency. He goes back into the church, and just in his, I don't know, whatever it is, anger, confusion, hurt, fear, you name it, he just tears everything up. He just doesn't know what else to do. It's the only way to express how terrible he feels. So, Wayne, of course, comes home, and he's now back home. And Wayne's just all, Joey, what did you do? You're lucky they're not arresting you. Oh, Wayne is angry. There's not going to be a pageant. You ruined it. It's all over. So, I mean, everything's broken. Everything's terrible. It's a dark place to be. And you kind of feel like there's just no good anywhere. No good at all. That's a dark place to be. So, but Monica explains something very important that probably Wayne didn't understand. In fact, I'm sure he didn't. And she explains here, Julia, he thinks that you hate him. I don't think he'd ever realized that. Yeah. He thinks you hate him. Well, that's the time for Wayne to start realizing, no, I don't actually hate him. He's inconvenient as all get out. He's kind of a pain in the butt to take care of all the time, but he's my responsibility. But I don't actually hate him. I mean, obviously he's a good person. He means well. He's just, every day is a disaster with him, or when it's not, that's something to celebrate. So they come back to the church, or just Wade comes back, and Monica, and Wade's just all, well, he sees all the stuff that's been torn up is getting thrown into the trash. There's no pageant. And besides, we still don't have an organ, and that's kind of a nice one. Tess sticks her head out, hey, did I fix that sucker or what? Yeah, suddenly the organ's working like a champ. Just at the right moment, you see. So, all that's left now is it's time for the pageant almost. And Monica decides to return Mr. Beans, there he is on the doorstep, to Joey. Here's Mr. Beans. I'm returning him to you. Now you can keep your promise. But Joey's still concerned with, I gotta go through the dark. I can't go through the dark. Wade's very accepting now. Wade's gonna go, and he just says, well, I'm gonna go, and sure you don't want to come? Well, okay then. You just be here, and I'll tell everybody you said hi. And he heads out. And then Monica shows up. Here's this Mr. Beans. And Joey comes out. It takes scare. He has to kind of go like this everywhere because you want to see how dark everything is. But he comes out, grabs Mr. Beans, and the moment he does, there's this weird light. There's no angels being seen, just this weird light glow. And he walks down and the streets, and all the way again, you hear Randy Travis singing again, "Oh Little Town of Bethlehem." So that's kind of sweet too. So Randy's singing that, "Oh Little Town of Bethlehem." He's going on like that. He has a much better voice than mine. As he walks down the street, and even though it's nighttime, it's as if the Star of Bethlehem is kind of leading him away. So he gets there. The pageant is moving right along. Now, I have a particular moment here that I think is of some interest. And that is, there's everybody there. Now you see the two figures. One on the left is Mary, still holding the baby, and the one on the right, they're kind of in the middle of that structure, is Joseph. And they're looking back. Reason being is that the reading was just, they placed the baby in a manger, so it's time to turn around and put the baby down in the manger, which is kind of right there behind them. Having put the baby down, stand up, face the audience for basically the rest of the whole pageant, as far as I can tell. And it's like the focus isn't on the baby Jesus. Granted, it was only a doll, but I mean, that's supposed to represent the baby Jesus. And they're standing there in front of them, ignoring the baby Jesus behind them, for one thing. And standing in this chorus line, in plays, you're not supposed to do that. I don't know whether it's amateurish scripted, or whether they just used real amateurs that would just naturally do something like that without thinking. I can't tell. So it's kind of an odd moment there that probably didn't come off too well, although you could put it down to their amateurishness, but still, it just doesn't work too well. So, and in the midst of all that, it's ready for the part where the angel speaks, and that's the moment that Joey has finally made it all the way to the church, and he walks in at the right moment and says, "Fear not, for I bring tidings of great joy." And he's walking in the middle of the church as he's coming in, still carrying Mr. Beans. And he's made it all the way there through the dark. And Wayne says something to him he's probably never said in his life. "Proud of you, Joey." That is very good. That's probably the strongest thing. He sits down, and Joey sits down next to Wayne, and he's like, "Guess what? You love me." And, yeah, I do. You can hear the despair, but it's a fact. It's an admission. Yeah, I do love you, and I love you too. Of course he does. It's the only person in his life. So they're sitting there, and Monica comes to get Mr. Beans. After all, Mr. Beans is supposed to ride the angel. That was another little promise that was made to Mr. Beans. Not just that he's there, but that an angel will carry Mr. Beans. And Monica's going to have to be the angel. So it's kind of a nice moment. She comes up to that guy that works the rope device, and she says, "This thing will hold you." She says, "Trust me on this." I should have captured that, but you get the idea. When she says that, just like she knows what she's doing. Well, I hope she does. Because he's hoisting her up. There they are, and she's kind of there, but it's also painful. Painful for the actress trying to do that part, as I've indicated. And then, as the thing just gives out, the rope gives out, she starts to fall, and then comes this quick cut thing, and I've counted it, it's fully 15 images. Just, to say nothing of several other images before they focus on her, it's people suddenly facing glow, sort of like Joey was when he stepped out of the door with Mr. Beans. He's sort of, There's a bunch of that, and then we have, an extraordinary scene. Now, I did mention way back in episode 0 that there was another view of not exactly wings per se, but something very kind of a robe fluttery sort of thing that's like a wing. Like a wing, almost. And it's the closest you'll ever get to anything wing-like on the part of Monica throughout the whole series. It's really the most extraordinary view of her you'll ever get. So, let's take a look at that scene. I think the rapid jump cuts kind of make it look more ethereal. If you had to look at any one of those images too long, it would look kind of hokey and all wrong. But when they move so fast, you have barely enough time to take in each picture before the next one is up. And I think it does work at making it look very impressive. It was a good move. So let's take a look at that. So, and then she lets go of Mr. Beans. It turns into a dove and flaps away. There's another view of her. Not exactly winged. It's kind of a robe thing, but it does kind of make her have a little bit in common. And they're all singing, and there's real animals, which you can't see too well. The animals suddenly turn into real animals. It's kind of an interesting touch. There's the Joseph and Mary still standing there with the baby Jesus somewhere behind them. Luckily the baby Jesus could take care of himself, I guess. I don't know. So, the chorus line is still there. Nice close-up of Monica. Yeah, that's kind of nice looking. And then Joey looks up. Serena has just passed away, but Joey's being allowed a glimpse of Serena being escorted to heaven by Tess and Adam. So they wave to each other before she fades away and heads on up. So that's basically the story. Now, this one is actually the first one released on media in 1997. It came out on this form, stitched together with the next year's Christmas episode that involves all the same characters and settings, plus a new character, Reverend Charles, who's, going to take advantage of the miracle. I'll just leave it at that for now. So that's what that is. There's some differences done to the opening and closing credits. Let's start with the opening credits here. The opening credits to the original is the opening credits. Well, not the actual theme song part, although there was one small thing done, and that was when it first was saying "touched by an angel," it actually will say, and you see kind of here, "a Christmas miracle" in the same lettering. One other interesting thing that they put in, and it's not in the original as it appeared, is that how I have the white lettering "touched by an angel" at the beginning of that. And here's this sort of angel, sort of bird figure on the A. A dove actually flies in and goes there and then turns into that hollow dove shape put into the logo. It's kind of a nice touch. It's not in the original. So that was kind of a neat detail they have. I don't have that captured, unfortunately. But what I do have is, let's just compare how it looks in the original episode as it appears on the DVD as a standalone, as a stick, and how they stitched the two together. Because one of the things that happens when you have the two together, you've got all these opening credits now, not just for the one show, but for the two. So let's see it in its original form here. Okay. So. Right, Ben Kelly, Paul Wittenberg, Monique Ridge, Randy Travis as Wayne.
Excuse me, we're from the Seraphim Organ Service. We didn't call any service.
And Charles Rocket as Adam.
Deacon Jameson and Pastor Mike mentioned anything to you about organ service? But this is covered
by John Anderson.
But this organ's 100 years old. But it was a lifetime guarantee. Well, you're too late. No, I hope not. It's going to be a beautiful Christmas pageant. Except now there's no music. Oh, you just leave that to us. Okay, folks. Shepherds, back to the field, wise men places. The shepherds
created by John Massis.
Back by the altar. No, they were to the west of the manger, and Balthazar was in the front. There what? There was Balthazar.
Written Kenla Zebnik.
And there was Casper. The shepherds, we just saw them cowering right
Tim
about
Van Patten.
Is this from your imagination or from memory? Honey, you'd be surprised. Well, sister, if you think you know what's happening, then why don't you just leave the band? Well, if you insist. All right, wise men go over there, shepherds come over here. And get closer together.
Okay, well, now let's see how it showed up when they put the two parts together. Alright, so here we go. Fear Not, Part 1. Oh, wow, look at that. Paul Wittenberg, that's a good roll. Monique Ridge, that's two there. Randy Travis Wayne, that's two there.
Excuse me, we're from the Seraphim Organ Service. We didn't call any service. You should
Charles
check
Rocket,
with
it's Adam, that's two there.
Jameson and Pastor Mike mentioned anything to you about organ service?
Feather Part 2, guest starring William R. Moses.
But this organ's 100 years old. But it was a lifetime guarantee. Well, you're too late. No, I hope not. It's going to be a beautiful Christmas pageant. Except now there's no music. Well, you just leave that to us. Okay, folks. Shepherds, back to the field, wise men places. The shepherds were over
Paul
here.
Wittenberg.
Wise men were over there. Back by the altar. No, they were to the west of the manger, and Balthazar was in the front. Say what? There was Balthazar.
Monique Ridge.
Melchior, and there was Casper. The shepherds, we just saw them cowering.
Victoria Mallory.
Is this from your imagination or from memory?
Randy Ogilvie.
Well, sister, if you think you know what's happening, then why don't you just leave the band? Well, if you insist. All right, wise men go over there, shepherds come over here.
Special guest star Randy Travis as Wayne. Feather Part 2, supervising producer, produced by Robert Viscagilia Jr., supervising producer John Anderson, created by John Macias. Fear Not, Part 1, written by Ken Lazivlink. The Feather, Part 2, teleplay by Ken Lazivlink and Valerie Woods. The Feather, Part 2, story by Valerie Woods and Ken Lazivlink and Robin. Fear Not, Part 1, directed by Tim Van Patten. The Feather, Part 2, directed by Gene Reynolds.
Places, please. Are you sure you've done this before? Oh, it's gonna be just like being there.
Okay. So, let's see that it's a. Well, the other part of some minor difference is the way the two are stitched together. They come together, I think, surprisingly well, all said and told. We'll look at the original, how it went. Well, here it ends. Okay. Alright, here it is. They're just flying around, they're walking away. The birds. Whoa! That's how they did it on the tape. Okay. Okay. The original. They walk away. They disappear. They finish the word. The bird flies up into the bright light of the Star of Bethlehem. And then you get the normal closing credits. So. Okay. I like to talk about those sorts of things. I can point out a little bit more when we get to part 2, but that comes a bit later on. Anyway, so this is, of course, probably one of the most significant and popular episodes. I think it kind of defines the series, even though it contains much that is unique. But I've enjoyed the story, even though there are some aspects that, strictly speaking, don't make a lot of sense. But this isn't about, what church is really, or even what angels are per se, especially cherubs. It's about human beings discovering that they really do care about each other. And those are good things. So, anyway, thanks for watching.